Welcome back on eNCA. In front of a live audience, we are debating an uncomfortable truth: South Africa's big water crisis. Is it policy uncertainty, lack of implementation as far as policy is concerned? Why, seemingly, is this country moribund in this respect? How do we start working together in order to achieve some of those big, bold and audacious goals? Let me wade straight back into the audience. Sir?
I think as a country, there's so much we can learn from what's happened in Cape Town. Because if you look at how water is consumed and supplied across South Africa, then, for example, you have a situation where you have a resident in Soweto. Do you really understand the water dynamics there? Because if you're looking at water allocation per stand, then the situation at Soweto and the situation in a suburb, they're very different. We really need to change our behavior in terms of consumption and also in terms of our everyday use. We really need to realize that it is indeed a scarce resource. We need to change the way we do things. We need to adapt to the new normal. What is it that we can do as individuals to conserve the little that we have?
Fine, so let me put that back to the panel. Let's get straight to government. Pick it up.
Yeah, I think as far as the climate change, I can just briefly say that government is not disputing whether the climate change is real or not. I think because we even have our own climate change, very competent scientists working with our water resource.
So you disagree
planning
with President Trump then?
on many areas. As far as our climate change specialists are concerned, they're working with our water resource planning unit towards ensuring that we become more resilient, because as we heard, that we're in a new situation at this point in time where our historic data might not be possible to be used for projections into the future. So our allocations, as we also work in policy before, where we said, when we came out...
You've just made a really important point, that the data we've got at the moment is so new that you're unclear about predictive modeling going into the future. Don't know about you lot, but that frightens me when I hear you say that. I'll get to you now, Professor TURTON.
Well, but that's the truth. To give you an example in Cape Town, if you look at all the storage data that you have in Cape Town with the dams that you have there, all these years, you have a drop in the summer, you have a climb in the winter in terms of the rainfall that comes, and then it flattens off. The past week, it had a spike, which was not replicated over the past 10 years data that you have, which means that you have a new trend that is actually developing as you go along.
It's beyond a new trend, Professor TURTON. It sounds like we're navigating blind here.
No, look, it's a technical issue. There's a technical term. I'm going to use a term called stochastic. There's a stochastic element in the model, and stochastic means it's unpredictable. So in other words, there's a variable that's thrown in all the time. And in fact, where you see it is in the stock markets. There's tons and tons of analysis from stock markets.
I accept that,
you can't predict the future.
Is it more unpredictable than it's been in the past?
That's the problem. Yeah. We are trying to deal with an inherently unpredictable system, and we're relying on historic data that's deep data, but it's incapable of making future prediction. So all we're talking about now is a certainty, and this uncertainty element, this has now got all sorts of ramifications. So we're getting back to that certainty and risk story.
Professor MPANDELI, would you like to respond to that?
Here's the story. South Africa has got various knowledge generations organizations. Your Water Research Commission, CSIR, ARC, all these organizations or institutions, they are generating knowledge. Why are we failing to take some of the recommendations?
Answer the question yourself. You sit with the commission.
No,
are people ignoring you?
I can answer that question from the research point of view, not from the implementation point of view. Because we have done our work, we package it, we put it on the table. But the story is that...
So what are you saying? No one's listening to you?
Well, look, I think we need to put our petty politics aside and egos and so on and start to face the reality. Because what is happening on the ground...
Let's face the uncomfortable truth.
Yeah.
Are people, you're producing this research.
Yes.
Do you feel that people are ignoring you? It's a yes or no question.
Yes.
In fact, they're ignoring you.
They're ignoring it. That's my response.
Mr. Leroy.
He's 100% correct, and that's why we're talking to the Water Research Commission as business, because if you don't have pull with infrastructure built into the sector, you can do as much research as you want, nothing is going to happen, it's not going to go down to the ground. But we forgot one low-hanging fruit just now. 37 to 41% of our water at local government level is unaccounted for. Most of that is leaks, okay? These are big leaks. It's through the trunk mains and the likes. Okay, it's not at a household level. This is pre-household level. That's the lowest hanging fruit. And the only city that has done let's say, good pressure demand management in the city of Cape Town, and that started 20 years ago.
Can I just interrupt you? I need you to speak slowly with that statistic. I'm not sure if I heard you correctly. 37 to 40% of water, available water,
Yes.
is being lost in this country
Yes.
due to poor infrastructure. In other words, pipes that are leaking, to put it into my language.
So if it was a national
can that
priority, we wouldn't have that. And the benchmark, the global benchmark, has gone down from 25 to 15 to 8 without pain. Okay, the best we got in the country is 14.7, 14.8% pre-drought in Cape Town, in a uni city. Okay, there are small villages and towns that are leaking 60, 70% of the water in Limpopo, Northwest, and the Northern Cape.
Mr. Manus, let me just get your title right again. Infrastructure, Operations and Maintenance, am I correct?
Of government water schemes.
What I've just heard is that 37 to 40%, closing in on half of the water available in this country is being lost due to leakage, to poor maintenance.
Government has put in place grants to assist these municipalities to replace the asbestos cement pipes that has caused a lot of leakages before. It's a process that is underway, but to make a judgment that nothing has been done, it's a judgment misplaced. We must first go and look in terms of that we have problems in this country, that government has problems in terms of its infrastructure. We acknowledge that. Let us not throw a blanket judgment across everything where women and men is working quite hard to actually get these things in place and get the water services infrastructure grant in place, the regional bulk infrastructure grant being spent, then it means that we are wasting our time and money by having these programs in place to address these things that business is talking about.
You know, Professor Turton, the two things...
Just lastly, government can't do it alone. And that's why I agree with my colleague from business as well. We can't do it alone. We need all hands on deck to bring that 273 liters per capita per day usage down to a world average of 173.
Professor Turton, you know what I hear in my professional life all the time? Either blame the media, and thank you for not blaming the media on this particular program. The other thing is, let's blame local government.
Blaming doesn't help, because blaming puts you in a mindset that doesn't solve problems. Think of the water that's lost as lost revenue. Someone over there said we can't fix things because we haven't got money in municipality. Of course we haven't. It's been stolen, or if it has come in, there's not enough of it. So I would go so far as to say that one of our big inconvenient truths in this country, the serious truth, the thing that's going to sink the ship, is in fact the cumulative debt from all of the municipalities. I was in a talk a short while ago where I spoke to many municipalities in a capacity building program. They all are completely overwhelmed by debt. So that toxic debt they're now throwing up to government, government's unable to carry that debt. That is going to sink the ship.
Let's go to this person here.
My name is ALUCIA MATHALE. I'm a qualified instrumentation mechanician trained under the Department of Water and Sanitation. The introduction, there was the War on Leaks program that was introduced in 2015, yes, by the former President Jacob Zuma. The program has been there. We were trained. We are now qualified. I think it's 3 years back. But now the government, they need to be ashamed of themselves, because now you are saying, I know that the infrastructure is deteriorating. The local municipalities, there are leaks, a lot of leaks there. You have mentioned it a couple of times. And then here we are well trained. There's an engineer here. He knows that we are a lot of departments. It's fitting and turning, welders, we've got plumbers, we've got electricians, everything that this country needs. 15,000 trainees were trained. We also have water agents that have to be deployed into the communities. People are raising points that the communities, they need to be taught about these things. We've got water agents that they can do that. They can go house to house, all the communities.
So you were part of this program?
Yes, I am part of this program.
You are trained to fix the leaks?
And I am qualified.
How many leaks have you fixed?
I haven't fixed any because they never employed us. All the 15,000 that they've been flexing about on the media, none of us has been employed, not even one. I am a phase 1 trainee.
And their esteemed panel members is part of your problem.
That's
Mr.
correct.
Manus.
It is a problem. The War on Leaks program was poorly conceptualized and poorly executed. And unfortunately, we have to acknowledge that as a department. So in that regard, we do acknowledge that it was a poorly conceptualized project, and it was poorly implemented. The problem that we have today is in terms of the continuum.
You're available to go and fix leaks right now, aren't you?
Yes, I ahead. A lot of us, we are qualified. We've got electricians, we've got plumbers, we've got fitters and turners, people who can take care of the government infrastructure. Someone mentioned that there's poor maintenance in the government. We are here. We are.
If you get a call from government right now, will you go and fix leaks?
Exactly, I can do that.
So why don't you resurrect this program?
You're going to say that I'm blaming a blame somewhere else. That's why I just wanted to say that perhaps it is good at this platform that we can take responsibility in terms of our where we are. I'm national government. I'm responsible for government water schemes. I'm responsible in terms of the grants and infrastructure grants we give then to local government, in terms of where their space is, in terms of where the leaks are, as I told you, is in a space that I don't get revenue for. I don't have that domain. In terms of our constitution, if you go and read it, it will find that we are all equally spheres as government. There was a decision taken in 1996 that we sit with today. If I have to intervene, I have to follow in terms of what the constitution say, that I cannot just go and into a local government area and go and work it there. As national government, in fact, there's a point in the constitution that I have to work through provincial government to go to local government to actually have that implemented.
Surely the problem here is the mechanism itself. Surely that we should streamline the mechanism of intervention.
I fully support what my colleague has said there. Absolutely. We have a constitutional crisis. The constitution is unworkable. And from that constitution, this whole thing about the cooperative governance clause is not being implemented properly. We need clarity from the constitutional court over what that cooperative governance clause means, because at the moment it's being interpreted that national government is unable to intervene at municipal level. Therefore, municipalities fall like dominoes because national can't intervene. So we need to get that thing solved.
How do you solve it? It's simply a court decision.
I've at my personal capacity, I've tried to actually get a constitutional court intervention. Very difficult. I don't have the money to do it myself. But we need to have a constitutional court ruling on that issue at some point in time.
Very quickly, a rebuttal to that.
I just want to ask the government about not being able to intervene in the local municipalities. But yet the government, has ordered the local municipalities to train us. Most of us were trained at the local municipalities across the country. So in Limpopo, Eastern Cape, you can name them all. Now you are saying you cannot intervene. But yet, at the beginning of the program, you said the local municipalities will absorb us to take care of the government infrastructure, to do the maintenance, the water agents to go community from one home to another, and teaching everyone about how you should avoid leaks and all those and reporting the leaks to the artisans. So
all right, we've got the point, Mr. MANUS. Again, let's put you on the spot. Would you like to respond to that?
Yes, that is true what she said, but unfortunately we paid for it. The local government never paid for it. It was a place of training, a place of placement in terms of having that experiential training that's a requirement to get the qualification as an artisan. We had those placements made, and those placements are still there in place in certain areas. Unfortunately, local government didn't take the baton to actually fund it. National government funded, but it's an unsustainable model.
Mr. Leroy, you want to quickly respond to that?
Before I retire, we're going to have SPVs. Let's just imprint this in our minds. Special purpose vehicles. It's a mechanism that we have put forward with government. What it does is it channels the funds, the grant funds and the likes, into special purpose vehicles, so it ring fences it, and it can only be used for the water and sanitation projects. Okay, so that is being incubated as we speak. That's one of the solutions to overcome the complexity between the three tiers of government. We call it the independent water producer model. It's Minister Tito Mboweni spoke about the IPP office. So what we did for energy, we do for water. It's the same thing. That's the story that we have fed through. So now it's a matter of connecting the dots of Treasury, using Development Bank of South Africa, okay, between DWS, COPTA, and the private sector.
But we're all going to die of thirst while you're connecting the dots.
Yeah. Before I retire, so I'm retiring in January. The intent is to get this going in the first quarter of next year.
Professor.
Jeremy,
yeah.
I mean, the reality is that we are not doing enough. I'm a bit disappointed, I mean, just listening to my sister over there. What she's talking about is bread and butter. And if we are still, busy connecting dots and so on, I will give you one example. Water Research Commission has decided that each and every community-based project, we need to involve youth and women in those communities. If, let's say, maybe we are running projects in Limpopo, we need to get youth and women so that they can form part of those projects. We've got the responsibility of making sure that we address the economic challenges that we are facing in this country. Although our mandate is to derive research and development activities, but we have decided to go beyond.
All right, in the time, sir, that it's taken me to get to you, this lady here could have fixed many pipes. We're going to come back to our audience, but also come back to our panel members for some closing remarks on eNCA. This is the uncomfortable truth as we try very hard to come up with some solutions to South Africa's water crisis.
It's not too late, but there is no sense of urgency. So nothing is happening. We've had this crisis going on since 2018, and still there is no work being done on the ground. They're still looking at plans.
There's a perfect storm. We need to do things right now.